And welcome back to Law and Crime. Welcome to the top of the hour here. Right now on lawandcrime.com, you can watch the live trial of Delano Dumercy. They are playing a police interview with Dumercy and police and investigators when they interviewed him after the shooting. Dumercy, as you know, was accused of shooting an unarmed man that was dating his ex-girlfriend at that time. Again, you can watch that trial live right now at our website, lawandcrime.com. Meantime, we're going to go back to talking about Ramon Bueno, as that trial should resume any minute now, live here shortly. Bueno is the man accused of shooting Trooper James Casey in the face during a traffic stop. We're going to listen to two of the officers who came for backup for Casey and responded to this shooting. All right, so we've been listening to Michael Beto. Again, he is the forensic firearms examiner. Dina Dahl, trial mediator, is joining us now. Julie Rendelman and Judge William Dawson are still with me here. But Dina, what do you think about this forensic firearm examiner? He's talking about that .357 Magnum, and we know that's the weapon that was used to shoot Trooper Casey here. So what is the importance of him getting into this?
Point is the defense's theory is that the defendant did not shoot Trooper Casey. The fact that Trooper Casey was shot and almost killed is a fact that is not denied here. But whether or not it was his gun that committed the crime is very important because there isn't that much evidence tying the defendant to the crime.
Right, and I'm assuming this will also help when we figure out where in the car this shot came from. I don't know if this exact witness or maybe a different ballistics type of witness will speak on that, but it will probably give us a better idea of trajectory of these bullets and where in the car this shot could have came from, right?
Yes, exactly. We've seen evidence already where the other male in the car, Vargas, had a bullet in his back, and they were able to line up the bullet in the back of the car to his back to show that he was not in the seat where the shot to Officer Casey was. So this is yet another piece of the puzzle trying to show the location of Bueno in the car.
All right, Dina Dahl, thank you so much. All right, so our forensic firearm examiner here talking about the bullets that were fired out of this gun. We know that he just said that the bullets that came out of this were likely fired from the same firearm. That's not something that can be absolute, but he said because of the way that the gun works, the .38 caliber, as well as those being fired typically out of a .357 Magnum, we know that he said that these bullets were likely fired from the same firearm. So, Julie, what's this mean in the scheme of this investigation here with this gun and the fact that, how does this play in?
I think the one thing it establishes is that there's probably just one shooter. So we're not looking at 2 or 3 different shooters. And so that's one of the things it establishes. It also establishes, in terms of the people's case, they have to put all the pieces together because they have to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. And they can't just rely on one witness or this witness. So they're taking in a forensic expert who's able to talk about the gun, explain how it works, and how it caused the damage to the victim that it did.
All right, and Judge William, I'll come out to you. What do you make of the fact that what Julie just said, that we now can probably deduct that this all came from one shooter? How does this, I guess you could say, hurt the defense maybe?
I believe it hurts the defense because it really narrows everything down. That's one of the keys with proving these cases beyond a reasonable doubt is that you want to close it in and bring doubt to a narrow line. So I think that helped. And also speaking to the forensic evidence, it really just lets the jury know, even from the technical points about the fragments and all of that, that there was a serious injury. You don't want to bypass that. You want them to go through every step of what happened, the injuries, how the bullets entered and exited, everything. So we're really establishing a nice groundwork as to this event and the defendant's guilt.
All right, Judge William, thank you. And Dina, when we hear a lot of this testimony about forensics, especially with firearms, a lot of this can get lost on some people, but I really think that this witness is doing a good job of keeping my attention at least, and hopefully the jury there. What do you think?
I agree. I think he's been an excellent witness. His answers have been short, to the point. He's not rambling. This crime is actually not that complicated, and he is doing a good job of continuing to simplify it for the jury. I'm sure they're able to digest the information that they're giving him.
All right, so we're listening to Michael now, and he's been talking a lot about what he was able to recover or identify from this scene. And we know that he's saying that these bullets came out of a .357 Magnum. And he's talking a lot about the types of bullets, I guess, and specifically what type of caliber bullets were used here. He said he definitely could determine that 38 caliber and 40 caliber bullets were used. So we know that there are two types of bullets that were possibly used here. And keep in mind that this could also be from the police officers' guns, because after Bueno shot at Trooper Casey, there was a shootout that happened. So all of these bullets did not have to come from that .357 Magnum. I guess I can, are we going to, okay, we're not, all right. Julie, what do you make of the fact that what he's saying so far? You know, we're hearing about these types of bullets. We haven't really heard much that conclusively says what type of gun was used from him yet.
Well, we know there were at least two guns. One of the guns we know comes from at least the police, and at least one of the guns we know comes from the car, because we know that Patrolman Casey was shot. So we know that there's at least two guns. And the reason that they're bringing this out, and by the way, is, you know, as a prosecutor, again, they need to cover all their bases. And so they need to establish A, he was shot, B, he was shot with a gun, C, that the gun came from the vehicle. And then at the most important aspect is that this defendant is the person that shot him. That is their biggest, I think, problem in this case. And I think everyone agrees the weakness is not that he was shot from the car, but who specifically is responsible beyond a reasonable doubt. And so anything they can do to establish that it was one gun and that the person who fired that shot was in that last seat where the cooperator says he was, that is going to help narrow it down to this defendant being the person responsible.
All right, Julie, thank you. We are going to go back live and listen to the firearm examiner. All right, so the cross-examination of Michael Bueno was very fast, which is interesting because the defense has done that for several other witnesses as well. They haven't really gone into deep and thorough cross-examination of many of these people so far. Judge William, what do you make of that?
I think it's a strategy sometimes when you know that the evidence is really difficult against you and it speaks for itself. A lot of forensic evidence really speaks for itself. So to go into an extensive cross-examination may end up hurting the defendant. So I think as a strategy, you just let that sit, let it lay, and you continue with your strategy for defense, which may be some other witnesses.
And that sort of reminds me of how even in their opening statements, they were very quick. They just told everyone to have an open mind, to look at this with a lens of, reasonable doubt. So they've been pretty short with what they've said so far. Do you still believe that's all part of this strategy, maybe?
I think so. And what it does is it just gives you the opportunity to hear what the state is going to present, and then you can actually play off of that. So, for instance, you'll go back to, some of the interview questions and things like that and try to say, well, he said he wasn't there. And of course, as they bottled him in, he made another statement. So you can play around with some of the evidence. Now, it's not the best strategy, especially when someone seems to be pretty guilty, but maybe that's all they have at this point.
All right, Judge William, thank you. And during this forensic firearms testimony, we heard about these types of bullets that were used, the fact that there was two different ones that he was able to extract and pick up from the scene. Dina, I mean, if you're the defense, wouldn't you want to highlight the fact that there were two types of bullets and maybe one of those didn't come from that gun, and try to maybe say that, hey, yeah, we know that you're saying this came from the .357 caliber, but doesn't that not necessarily say that it had to have come from that gun?
Well, it's possible that there's a piece of evidence we just don't know, and that the other bullet did come from the police, and we know that because we know the type of guns they have, and that's why he didn't highlight that. I think he did a good job of highlighting the one place that there was doubt. The forensic examiner admitted that it was inconclusive. Just that word, inconclusive, is really great to highlight to the jury. I think his short and sweet and just pointing out where there is any reasonable doubt is a good strategy for the defense.
All right, Dina, thank you. We're going to take a break right now on Law and Crime. When we come back, we'll be back live in Ramon Bueno's trial. Stay with us.